Lord Caitanya class. We are in
Hare Krishna.
Adilila chapter 4, discussing the confidential reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. So last time we were discussing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, assuming the sentiment of Srimati Radharani, a devotee, he preached the devotional service while practicing himself. And in that regard, we discussed there are four kinds of devotees who are like receptacles of four kinds of mellows in the law of Godhead. That is Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhur. And each of these devotees, they find complete satisfaction and tastes great happiness in remembering and rendering loving devotional service to Krishna. But then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, if we compare the sentiments in an impartial mood, then we find that the conjugal sentiment is superior to all others in sweetness. That means the experience of love is the highest in conjugal love. To establish highest taste of Sringar Ras among all rasa, Sri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, he quoted this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Jathat Taroshu Swada Vishesha Srasa Mayapi Ratir Vasanaya Swadvi Bhasate Kapi Kasyachit. So in this verse, he established the fact that the manifestation of the sweetness is highest in conjugal love. Then, starting with text number 46, is going to further describe that manifestation of conjugal love. So, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, now we are in Adilila chapter 4, starting with text number 46. Ataiva madhur ras kahitaranam swakya parakya bhave dvividha samsthan. Therefore, I call it madhur ras. It has two further divisions, namely wedded and unwedded love. So, Sakya, Swakya, and Parakya. So there are two divisions. And let us understand this Swakya. What is Swakya? The Swakya mood is explained in Ujjwal Nilamani, Krishna Vallabha section. It is said, Karagraha vidhim prapta patyuadesha tatpara. Means this Swakya mood is defined as the wedded love. One gets married to a man, that person becomes her husband, Pati, and Patyu Adesha Tatpara. And she is very meticulously following the orders of her husband. And Pati Pratyar Vichala Swakya Kathita. And such a lady never go astray from following the Pativrata Dharma. Pativrata Dharma means, as a chaste wife, she is very much devoted to her husband. And in Krishna's pastime, in Dwaraka pastime, we see Krishna had 16,000 Mahishis, like Rukmini, Satyabhama, and others. They're all in Swakya mood. They're the wives of Krishna, and that is in wedded relationship. Then Parakya Bhav, the Parakya mood have been defined in the same book as Rage Navar Pitatmana Loko Yugmana Pekshina. In unwedded loving relation, they come to each other out of spontaneous attraction. Rage Naibar Pitatmana. One has given herself to the man out of attraction, attachment. Loko Jugmana Prakshina. At that time, they don't care for what is going to happen to them in this world and in the next world. That means they don't care that people will criticize us, we are falling away from the religious principles, the society will not accept us, and after the death we will go to the hellish planet. Those things are not taken into account in that relationship. And dharmana swikrita, aswikrita, dharmana aswikrita means, like in the first relationship, Swakya relationship, they get married to each other. Like on the marriage day, the Brahmana will come, he will perform the sacrifice in front of the Vaishnavas. They will enter into marriage life. They will become husband and wife. That is dharmana swikrita. By following religious principles, they become husband and wife. But here, dharmana aswikrita means there is no marriage, formal marriage. So, but still they are attracted to each other. So that relationship is called parakya. That's why it has been defined as wedded and unwedded relationship, mood. So parakya kanta has two divisions. One is called kanyaka, that is the gopis who were not married, unwedded gopis, and praudha. Praudha means they had married to the gopis. So here the question can be asked that if the gopis were married to some gopis, then how come it became so they had their husband, right? So I think we have discussed this pastime before. When the gopis, the girls in Braj, they attained maturity. At that time, the father of the gopis, they were very much concerned about their girls' future, because they are very much afraid of Kamsa. And they were thinking, if we can get our children married to some gopis, then Kamsa will not look at them. So the arrangement was done by Yoga Maya, that the marriage were fixed with different gopis, and at one night they all had dream, and in the dream they saw that they have got married. And next day when they woke up, that impression became so strong that they accepted as if the marriage is conducted already. but they had not married actually. And these gopis, they are the Swarupa Shakti, they are the manifestations of the Swarupa Shakti of Krishna. They are also pleasure-giving potency. So in that way, so they are only Krishna's the gopis belong to Krishna only. So everybody thinks that these gopis are married to a gopo, but they did not have physical association of their husband and were anxious to meet with Krishna. So that is Parakyabha. So in our material world, some people, they accept this mood which is highly condemned, which is very highly condemned. In the material world, one thing can be taken into consideration in this connection. We are discussing this a very sensitive matter. For a conditioned soul, they also, when read this kind of literature, they find this parakya relationship with somebody in this world without understanding the consequence of their relationship. But first of all, the relationship in this material world are under the influence of Mahamaya. Just like I just now explained that under the influence of Yoga Maya, all the gopis and the Brajavasis, they thought that these girls are married already. Similarly, in this material world, the conditioned souls, they get married and they consider he's my husband, she's my wife, right? And they continue that relationship. But actually, Krishna says, Mata Masya Jagata, Mata Dhata, Matama, Pitama. Krishna is the only husband. Pati. Krishna is the only Pati. Nobody is husband and no one's husband, nobody is no one's wife. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he explains to Sachimata after taking sannyas, when Sachimata met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sachimata, Kinari Purushat Kevakar Pati, means who is one's husband, who is one's wife. One may be a male or female, but the lotus feet of Krishna is the only true relationship. That means under the Mahamaya influence, so-called marital relationship is meant for developing our attachment to Krishna. If the marital relationship in this material world does not allow husband and wife to develop their true relationship with Krishna, then that kind of marital relationship in this material world is also proven useless. So, therefore, we can conclude here that this relationship between Krishna and the gopis in Vrindavan in the mood of Parakya Bhav is only seen in Braj, which is transcendental. If that mood is accepted by any living entities in this material world, they will have to suffer the consequences in form of social criticism. They will suffer some diseases, and finally they will meet with condemned death. So, and also after they leave their body, they will continue to suffer in hell. But in case of Krishna, the relationship is pure. And today we're going to discuss more about it by taking reference from Padma Puran, Patal Khanda. So in that way, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, he continues to explain the excellence of Parakya mood in the next verse, text number 47. Parakya bhavati rasir ullas braja vina yahara anyatra nahi bas. There is a great increase of mellow in the unwedded conjugal mood. Such love is found nowhere but in Braja. Braja vina, except Braja, Vrindavan. There is no parakya mood in other abode of the Lord. That means neither sin in Vaikuntha or any other spiritual world. This parakya mood is only seen in Vrindavan, Braja. So that we will see afterwards. Prabhupada explains this. Then continues, Brajavadhu Ganerai Bhava Niravadhi Tara Madhye Siradhar Bhave Ravadhi. This mood is unbounded in the damsels of Braja, but among them it finds its perfection in Sri Radha. Praudha nirmala bhava prema sarvattam Krishner madhurjaro saswadakaram. Her pure, mature love surpasses that all of others. Her love is the cause of Lord Krishna's testing the sweetness of the conjugal relationship. So, here the excellent characteristics of Radha's love is explained. Prema. Praudha nirmala prem. Prem means love. What is that prema? Again, Ujjwal Nilamani explains. Sarvatha dhamsa rahita. Satyapi dhamsakar. Satyapi dhamsakar. Even though there is cause for destruction of the love, but the loving tie between a man and woman does not get destroyed. That is called love. And Praudha prema, sya yatra syat visleshasya asahismita means the love of Brajagopis increases and reaches a point at which separation is intolerable. That is called Praudha prema. That means a devotee relishes the sweetness of Krishna's love to the degree it is manifested. Means if our love is more deep, just like when you are boiling the milk, right? The sweetness of the milk will depend on how condensed it is. If it is more condensed, then it will become more sweet. If it is less condensed, then it will become less sweet, right? So, Krishna's sweetness is always becoming newer and newer. So, devotees test it according to their own perspective love. That's why I gave the example of boiling the milk. So if you are in Krishna consciousness, the way you are attached to Krishna, Krishna will help you to experience the sweetness of your love. अतएव सही भाव अंगीकार करी साधिलेन निज वांछा गौरंग श्रीहरि. So from text number 42 to 48, we have seen Radha's love is the highest. The highest form of Krishna's sweetness is released by Srimati Radha. Hence, Krishna, when he wanted to experience his own sweetness, he had to accept the mood of Srimati Radharani. That's why it is said, Atayev, Saibhav Angikar. Because Radha's love for Krishna is the topmost among all the gopis. And Krishna therefore accepted the mood of the sentiment of Srimati Radharani to taste his own sweetness. Sadhilena nijo vancha gauranga Sri Hari. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya, who is Sri Hari himself, means Krishna himself, accepted the sentiments of Radha and thus fulfilled his own desires. So the Prabhupada, he gives a very elaborate purport. We can read from there. The first paragraph I will read. Of the four kinds of reciprocations of love. Okay, so this, there is no need. I think we have explained this. Now we can read the second paragraph. Some devotees think that Krishna is eternally the enjoyer in Goloka Vrindavan, but only sometimes comes to the platform of Braja to enjoy Parakyaras. The six Goswamis of Vrindavan, however, have explained that Krishna's pastimes in Braja are eternal, like his other activities in Goloka Vrindavan. Braja is a confidential part of Goloka Vrindavan. Krishna exhibited his Braja pastimes on the surface of this world. And similar pastimes are eternally exhibited in Braja, in Goloka Vrindavan, where Parakya Rasa is ever existent. So, this Parakya Rasa is there, but when Krishna comes to this world, he also tastes the mellow in manifest pastimes. Therefore, in the last paragraph, Prabhupada explains, the transcendental mellow released by the gopis in Braja is super excellently featured in Srimati Radharani. Mature assimilation of the transcendental humor of conjugal love is represented by Srimati Radharani, whose feelings are incomprehensible even to the Lord himself. The intensity of her loving service is the highest form of ecstasy. No one can surpass Srimati Radharani in releasing the qualities of the Lord through his supreme transcendental melody. Therefore, the Lord himself agreed to assume the position of Radharani in the form of Lord Sri Gauranga. He then released the highest position of Parakya Ras as exhibited in the transcendental body of Braja. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he gives references from Srila Rupa Goswami's Stavamala to confirm that Sri Krishna, or you can say Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has come assuming the mood of Srimati Radharani That is explained, that is the proof of evidence, that is the evidence coming from text number 51. Then in text number 52, that Sri Krishna, who accepted the effulgent yellow color complexion of Srimati Radharani and became Gauranga. That is the evidence. So in text number 51, it says, Suresanam Durgam. Suresanam Durgam. Suresanam Durgam. Suresanam means Indradi, Devatana. Durgam. Durgam means Nirvaya Sthana. Just like in the time when the kings used to rule, king used to have fortresses. And where they could live fearlessly. That means Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the shelter of the demigods. When even the demigods, they take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they become fearless. Suresanam Durgam Gatirati Saino Panishadam. And that is the goal of Upanishad. He is the goal of Upanishad. Muninam Sarvasvam. The be all and end all of the great yogis. He is everything of the Munis. Pranata Patalinam Madhurima. Pranata Patalinam means the devotees. He is the blissful shelter of the devotees. And Vinirjyasa Premno Nikhila Pasupalo Pam Bhujadrisham. Nikhila Pasupalam Bhujadrisham. Here it is referred to all the Brajagopis. He is the essence of the love of the Brajagopis. Sa Caitanya Kim me Punarapi Drishor Jasyati Padam. Will he again be the object of my vision? That's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That means this is how it is explained that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has accepted the mood of Srimati Radharani, when will he become the object of my vision? Srila Prabhu Goswami is praying. Then the next verse he says, Aparam kasyapi pranayi janabindasya kutuki rasastomam hitva madhuram upabhaktum kam api jaha rucham swamababre dyutimiha tadiyam prakatayan sadeva chaitanya kritiratitaram naha kripayatu. Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, while commenting to this, he says, Jah kasyapi pranaya janabrindasya brajangana lakshanasya snigdha bhakta nichayasya kam api anirvachaniyam madhuram singara paraparjyayam rasastomam ritva upabhaktum swayam tad bhavena aswadaitum swam ruchim dyutim ababre pidade. So means Krishna. Kasyapi pranaya janabrindasya means Krishna in Vrindavan really is the love offered by the gopis, that includes Srimati Radharani. But amongst all the gopis, Radha's love is taken as the highest expression of conjugal mellow. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here is a Kasyapi Braja, Kasyapi Pranay Janabrindasya Vajangana Lakshanasya Snigdha Bhakta Nichayasya. Out of all these gopis, the one who has the highest expression of love for Krishna, that is Srimati Radharani, na rasastumam hritva. So Krishna has stolen the essence of all rasas and madhura mupabhaktum kamapija rucham swam ababre dutiriya. So in that way, Krishna also he has stolen the yellow complexion of that highest devotee, Srimati Radharani, and he has covered himself. What is his form? His form has a blackish complexion, Krishna, right? That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described as Antah Krishna Bahir Gaura. So the complexion is seen outside, the complexion of Radharani, golden complexion, seen from outside. So from outside he is Gaura, and from inside he is Krishna. So may that Lord Chaitanya confer upon us his grace. So this verse gives the evidence that Krishna has covered his dark complexion with Radha's effulgent yellow color and have become Gauranga. So in that way, he continues, Bhavagrahanera hetu kaila dharma sthapan tar mukhya hetu kahi suna sarvajan. To accept ecstatic love in the man is the main reason. He appeared and re-established the religious system for this age. I shall now explain that reason. Everyone please listen. So mukhya hetu, what is his main cause? The main cause is mula hetu age shloker kaila abhas ebe kahi sei shloker artha prakash. So now the Krishna's Goswami is going to explain the meaning of how did Krishna accept the mood of Srimati Radharani. And that is going to be explained from text number 56 until 100, while explaining text number 55. So this text number 55 has come from the Mangalacharana prayer, that is the 5th verse out of the 14th verses. And this speaks about Vastu Nirdesh and Namaskar, part of Mangalacharana. Text number 55. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritil Hadini Shakyasmat Ekatmanavati Bhuvipura Deha Vedam Gato Tau Chaitanyakhyam Prakatamadhuna Tadvayam Chaikamaptam Radha Bhavadyuti Subalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now, these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So this verse is explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami from text number 56. He says, Radha Krishna ekatma dvidehadhari अन्योन्ये बिलसे रस आस्वादन करी. Radha and Krishna are one. Radha Krishna ekatma. Why ekatma? Because Krishna Purna Shakti, Radha Purna Shaktiman. Krishna is Purna Shakti and Radharani is Shakti. Sorry, Krishna is Shaktiman and Radharani is Shakti. So in that way, we know there is a statement in the Veda, Shakti Shakti Matayor Veda. Therefore, here it is said that Radha and Krishna are one and are the same. Radha Krishna ekatma. But Dvidehadhari and Radha and Krishna are eternal. So since time immemorial, they are in two different bodies. Because without, or you can say the mellow of love or the sweetness that is experienced in one body cannot be experienced in two bodies. Or the mellow of love which is experienced in two bodies cannot be experienced in one body. Therefore, our Supreme Lord, since time immemorial, he has expanded himself into two. They have assumed two bodies. Thus, they enjoy each other, tasting the mellows of love. So, here it is said that Radha and Krishna are one and the same. Many people, they become confused to understand this philosophy. That's why there is a lot of misunderstanding between Radha and Krishna's pastime in this material world. But this can be explained by taking reference from Patal Khanda or Padma Puran, where Lord Shiva says to Narada, Radhika Paradevata. Srimati Radharani is Paradevata. And Sarva Lakshmi Swarupa. She is the embodiment of all Lakshmi, or you can say Radharani is the source of all Lakshmi, Martya Lakshmi, Swarga Lakshmi, in Vaikuntha Lakshmi. Radharani is the source, Sarva Lakshmi Swarupa. Sa Krishna Lada Swarupini. She is the pleasure-giving potency of Krishna. And Naitoyor vidyate vedam swalpopi munisattam. He said that there is not even a tinge of difference between them, Radha and Krishna. Okay? In the same Purana, in the same Patal Khanda, Srimati Radharani says to Narada again, Aham cha Lalita Devi Radhika Jacha Giyate. Radharani says, I am Lalita. Aham cha Lalita Devi Radhika Jacha Giyate. Means there is no difference. Lalita Radharani. Aham cha Vasudevakya Nitya Kama Kalatmaka. And I am non-different from the Vasudev who is always seeking amorous, loving relationship. Satyam Yoshit Swarupaham. Radharani is saying, I am the source of all mistresses. Yoshit. And Yoshit Chaham Sanatani. I am the eternal mistress. Radharani is only eternal. Aham cha Lalita Devi Tumrupa Krishna Vallabha Avayu Antaram Nasti Satyam Satyam Hinarada. Again, no, there is no difference between us, among us. Since they are one, hence Krishna has become successful in assuming the mood of Srimati Radha. Means the question is Krishna, he accepted the mood of Srimati Radharani. If they are two different personalities, then how can one person assume the mood of other person? In this world, if we take this example, everybody is an individual. They have their mind, their sentiment. One person cannot accept the mind and sentiment of another person. But here, how Krishna became successful? Because there is no difference. Even Radharani is saying, Avayur antaram nasti satyam satyam hinarada. Or Narada, you must know that there is no difference among us. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that two transcendentalists, Radha and Krishna, are a puzzle to materialists. The above description of Radha and Krishna from the diary of Srila Swarupa Damodar Goswami is a condensed explanation. But one needs great spiritual insight to understand the mystery of these two personalities. One is enjoying in two. So Krishna is the potent factor, and Srimati Radharani is the internal potency. According to Vedanta philosophy, there is no difference between the potent and the potency. They are identical. We cannot differentiate between one and the other any more than we can separate fire from heat. That means just like one cannot separate fire from heat, similarly Radha and Krishna cannot be separated. They cannot be seen differently. Prabhupada says, the very name Radha suggests that Srimati Radharani is eternally the topmost mistress of the comforts of Sri Krishna. As such, she is the medium transmitting the loving living entities service to Sri Krishna. Devotees in Vrindavan therefore seek the mercy of Srimati Radharani in order to be recognized as loving servitors of Sri Krishna. Why Radharani is topmost mistress? Because through her only we can render service to Krishna. And why she is topmost mistress? Why she is the topmost manifestation of Krishna's energy? As we know, Krishna's Swarupa Shakti has three status: Ladini, Sandhini, and Sambhed. This Swarupa Shakti, which is also called internal potency, when exhibits the existential potency, that is called Sandhini Shakti. And when the same potency displays full knowledge, that is called Sambhed potency. When the same Swarup Shakti or internal energy plays as a pleasure-giving medium, that is called Ladini Shakti. So, in this way, Krishna's Swarupa Shakti manifests in these three divisions. That is how you can understand that Krishna has his Swarupa Shakti, and his Swarupa Shakti manifests in many different forms and serves him. This is tattva regarding Krishna. We need to understand this. But at the same time, you should not forget that Radha and Krishna are two different personalities. And Radharani is there to serve Krishna, uh, give pleasure to Krishna, and help the living entities to serve Krishna also. Sei dui ekoeve Caitanya Gosai Rasa Aswadite Dohe Haila Ekathai. Now, to enjoy rasa, they have appeared in one body as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Radha and Krishna are eternally present. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also eternally present. Nobody should think by reading this, Rasa Aswadite Dvaya Haila Ekathai, or Radha and Krishna, they were two. So, one day when they decided to experience the mellow, they became one, a Chaitanya. No, we should not think it like that. Like, as I mentioned that the experience gained in one form cannot be experienced in two different bodies. And the experience, the mellow of love, experience in two bodies cannot be experienced in one body. But here, therefore, this form of Sri Chaitanya is eternally existent in the spiritual world. And because Laghu Bhagavatamrita says, Sarve Nitya Satsutascha Dehastasya Paratmana. The body of the Paratma, Paramatma, like Krishna, in one form he is Krishna, another form he is Chaitanya, another form he is Ramachandra, Varaha, right? Sarve Nitya, they are all eternally present. So in that way, we should not get confused that Rasa Aswadite Dvaya Haila Ekathai, just to experience the rasa, they became one. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a new creation. No, he is also eternal like Radha and Krishna. Ithilagi age kari tar vivaran jaha hoite hoy gaureir mahima kathan. Ithilagi, because Radha and Krishna are one and the same. Therefore, I shall first delineate the position of Radha and Krishna. From that description, the glory of Lord Chaitanya will be known. So, it continues. Text number 59. Radhika hoyen Krishne pranaya vikar Swarup Shakti Ladini Naam Jahan. Srimati Radhika is the transformation of Krishna's love. She is his internal energy called Ladini. Radharani is the Ladini potency. So we know the law of the prema. The transformation of prema is called Mahabharata. Here you have to understand who is this Srimati Radharani who have been different. Swarup Shakti, Ladini, no, same, right? Ladini Shakti and Swarup Shakti is same. So here Radharani, who is the embodiment of Ladini Shakti, what is that? Mahabhava Swarupini Radha Thakurani. Radhika is the embodiment of Mahabhava. Therefore, Srimati Radharani has been described as the transformation of Krishna's love. As we discussed, the Swarup Shakti has three components, Ladini, Sambit, and Sandhini. And because these three energies, they always remain in the body of Krishna, that's why they are called Swarup Shakti. So in that way, now we can conclude that all these gopis who are also the pleasure potency of Krishna are manifested from Krishna's Swarupa Shakti. And these have been confirmed by Srila Jiva Goswami in Krishna Sandarbha. So, where he says, Atha Vrindavane Tadiya Swarupa Shakti Pradurvavascha Si Brajadebhya. So that means here we can understand one point. A question can be raised actually. We have never seen energy having a form, right? Have you seen any energy having a form? Therefore, it is explained here, these Braja Devis in Vrindavan are the manifestation of Krishna's Swarupa Shakti. And Radharani is the embodiment of Ladini Shakti. But how is it possible? So that is, in Bhagavad Sandarbha, he says, Tatra cha tasam kevala shakti rupatvena amurtanam bhagavadi vigrahad aikatmena sthitihi. Means these energies are formless as energy themselves, right? But these energies remain in the bodies of Krishna. At that time, they don't have any separate personal form. This is the explanation of Srila Jiva Goswami, that when these energies, they remain in Krishna's body, they remain merged with Krishna's body. Therefore, they don't have any personal form. But as presiding deity, they have forms. Means they are the associates of the Lord in the personal forms. Thus, energies exist in two status. That is called Murta and Amurta. Murta means having a form and Amurta means formless. That means the potency of Krishna, when remains in his body, in Swarupa, in his Swarupa, that is, they remain formless. But when they become manifest, then they become Murta. Okay. But again, we should not understand like, Krishna is limited. Sometimes they are actually manifest. No, they are also eternal like Srimati Radharani. Because Krishna is eternal, Krishna's energy also eternal. Shakti is Shaktiman. Shakti is there means Shaktiman is there. Shaktiman is there means Shakti is there. You cannot separate Shakti from the Shaktiman. Like Prabhupada gave the example of, you cannot separate light from the fire. Fire is there means light is there, and heat is also there. So in that way, Srimati Radharani is the transformation of Krishna's love, and she is his internal potency called Ladini Shakti. Then continues. Ladini Karai Krishne Ananda Swadan Ladini Dwarakare Bhaktir Poshan. That Ladini energy gives Krishna pleasure and nourishes his devotees. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami has elaborately discussed the Ladini potency in his Priti Sandarbha. He says that the Vedas clearly state only devotional service can lead one to the personality of Godhead. Only devotional service can help a devotee meet the Supreme Lord face to face. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is attracted by devotional service, and as such, the ultimate supremacy of Vedic knowledge rests in knowing the sincere science of devotional service. third paragraph, he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has three kinds of internal potency, namely the Ladini Shakti, or pleasure potency, and Sandhini Shakti, existential potency, and Sambit Shakti, the cognitive potency. In the Vishnu Puran, the Lord is addressed as follows. O Lord, you are the support of everything. The three attributes, Ladini, Sandhini, and Sambit, exist in you and as one spiritual energy. But the material modes which cause happiness, misery, and mixtures of the two do not exist in you, but you have no material qualities. Ladini is the personal manifestation of the blissfulness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by which he enjoys pleasure. Because the pleasure potency is perpetually present in the Supreme Lord, the theory of the impersonalist that the Lord appears in the material mood of goodness cannot be accepted. The impersonalist conclusion is against the Vedic version that the Lord possesses a transcendental pleasure potency. When the pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is exhibited by His grace in the person of a devotee, that manifestation is called love of God. Love of God is an epithet for the pleasure potency of the Lord. Therefore, devotional service reciprocated between the Lord and his devotee is an exhibition of a transcendental pleasure potency of the Lord. Those ignorant persons cannot understand the distinction between impersonal spiritual bliss and the variegatedness of the spiritual pleasure potency. The Ladin potency gives the Lord all transcendental pleasure, and the Lord bestows such a potency upon his pure devotee. That means a pure devotee of the Lord, when favored by the Ladini potency, Ladini Shakti, then only his service will become relishable, or his service will bring pleasure to the Lord. And then when Lord is pleased, you also become pleased. It's a very important point to take a note on in this connection. The devotees are engaged in service, rendering service to the Lord. Not necessarily always we are getting happiness, right? Sometimes a lot of distress comes also, and devotees, they become very frustrated. This confirms that the devotee is not favored by the Ladini Shakti. Ladini Shakti means pleasure potency. There will be always bliss, the happiness. Happiness that Krishna experiences comes from Ladini Shakti. And by the influence of Ladini Shakti, also the devotee, while engaged in serving Krishna, will also release the topmost happiness. Therefore, Satchidananda Purna Krishner Swarup Ekoi Chit Saktitar Dhare Tin Rup. Lord Krishna's body is eternal, Sat, full of knowledge, Chit, and full of bliss, Ananda. He is one spiritual potency, energy manifests three forms. Swarup Shakti has three divisions, three forms. Ladini, Sandhini, and Sandhini. Anandang se Ladini, Sabdang se Sandhini, Chidang se Sambhicare, Jnana Kari Bhani. Ladini is his aspect of bliss. Ladini, Sandhini of eternal existence, and Sambit of cognizance, which is also accepted as knowledge. A long purport is given by Prabhupada. We can read this also. In his thesis, Bhagavad Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami explains the potencies of the Lord as follows. The transcendental potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by which he maintains his existence is called Sandhini. Sandhini is the existential potency of the Lord. The transcendental potency by which he knows himself and causes others to know him is called Sambit. The transcendental potency by which he possesses transcendental bliss and causes his devotees to have bliss is called Adini. Huh? So in that way you can understand the devotees' experience of bliss is also due to Ladini potency. The material moods of nature control the conditioned souls, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is never influenced by these moods, as all Vedic literatures directly and indirectly corroborate. Lord Krishna himself says in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.25.12, Sattam Rajas Tamaiti Guna Jivasya Naivame. The material moods of goodness, passion, and ignorance are connected with the conditioned souls, but never with me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Vishnu, me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vishnu Puran confirms this as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is beyond the three qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance. No material qualities exist in him. May that original person, Narayana, who is situated in a completely transcendental position, be pleased with us. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna, Indra praises Krishna. He says, my dear Lord, your abode is Vishuddha Sattva, always undisturbed by the material qualities. And the activities there are in transcendental loving service unto your feet. The goodness, austerity, and penance of the devotees enhance such activities, which are always free from the contamination of passion and ignorance. Material qualities cannot touch you under any circumstances. When not manifested, the moods of material nature are said to be in goodness. When they are externally manifested and active in producing the varieties of material existence, they are said to be in passion. And when there is a lack of activity and variegatedness, they are said to be in ignorance. In other words, the fancy mood of goodness, activity is passion, and inactivity is ignorance. Above all these mundane qualitative manifestations is Vishuddha Sattva. When it is predominated by the Sandhini potency, it is perceivable as the existence of all that be. When predominated by the Sambit potency, it is perceived as knowledge in transcendence. And when predominated by Ladini potency, it is perceived as the most confidential love of Godhead, Vishuddha Sattva. The simultaneous manifestation of these three is one in the main feature of the kingdom of God. The absolute truth is therefore the substance of reality eternally manifest in three energies. Manifestation of the internal energy of the Lord is the inconceivably variegated spiritual world. The manifestation of the marginal energy comprises the living entities, and the manifestation of the external energy is the material cosmos. Therefore, the absolute truth includes these four principles: the supreme personality of Godhead Himself, His internal potency, His energy, His marginal energy, and His external energy. The form of the Lord and the expansions of His form, Swayam Rupa and Vaibhava Prakash, are directly the enjoyers of the internal energy, which is the eternal exhibitor of the spiritual world, the most confidential of the manifestations of energy. The external manifestation, the material energy, provides the covering bodies of the conditioned living entities, from Brahma down to the insignificant ant. This covering energy is manifested under the three modes of material nature and appreciated in various ways by living entities in both the higher and lower forms of life. Each of the three divisions of the internal potency, the Sandhini, Samvid, and Ladini energies, influences one of the external potencies by which the conditioned souls are conducted. Such influence manifests the three qualitative modes of material nature, proving definitely that the living entities, the marginal potency, are eternally servitors of the Lord and are therefore conditioned by either the internal or the external potency. So that means when a living entity is not engaged in the service of the Lord, he is controlled by the external potency. When he is engaged in the service of the Lord, he is controlled by the internal potency. In either situation, he should be under control. We cannot become free from control, being controlled. So, therefore, devotees, they choose themselves to be controlled by the internal potency. Therefore, they are always engaged in devotional service. And when we are not engaged in devotional service, then we will be forced to be controlled by external potency. There is no other choice. Only two choices. So, you voluntarily accept the internal potency, then you have a safe life. If you don't, then you will have to suffer under the control of external potency. Okay, maybe we can take questions. If you have any question or comment, we can look at that. Question or comment? Indulekha Kripa Devidasi.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I am having two questions. One question is from last class, Prabhuji. I could not ask because I was traveling and I heard only the recording. So with that I have one question, and one question is from today's class, Prabhuji. The first question from last class is from text number 41. In the purport, it is given that Vipralambha Bhava, where the law, in this it is given that sometimes when adopted for confidential reasons should not be disturbed in the name of service. Can you explain that, Prabhuji, once? What is the meaning of that?
Okay, let me tell you one thing.
Yes, please.
These are very internal things. Like one time Prabhupada, he was in the class, he felt kind of very intimate connection with Krishna. In Vipralambha Bhav means feeling of intimate connection in separation.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
But that cannot be disturbed, that cannot be, versus in the name of service, cannot be avoided, right?
Yes.
So that
Should not
means,
be, should not be disturbed in the name of service.
should not be disturbed in the name of service.
Yes.
That means a perfect devotee who has achieved their platform in the platform of Raga Anuga, like in Chaitanya says, no, Bahya Antaryahar Dvita Sadhan. So he will continue the service to the Lord both internally and externally. And in the name of service, it cannot be disturbed. That means he will also externally continue the service, and internally he will follow the mood to serve the Lord the way he supposed to serve the Lord, recognizing his own swarupa. But these are all very high level kind of sentiments. We cannot discuss much to know much about it.
Okay.
But you should know that a sincere devotee should simultaneously serve, and when the time comes in this body also, he will be able to experience the intense service mode. What is happening in Vipralambha Bhav? The desire to serve the Lord, becomes so intensified that the separation becomes unbearable. When they want to come near the Lord to serve Him in person. But at the same time, externally also, they're engaged in service of the Lord. So in either way, either internally or externally, they're always hankering to serve the Lord. That is mostly defined about the service mode.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. The second question is, Prabhuji, you told that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime is also like eternal. Like for example, now Rama, Narsimha, those pastimes are eternal in Vaikuntha Lokas, and Krishna's pastime is in Goloka Vrindavana. So in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes are eternal in which planet, or is there any
Goloka, we have seen, no, there are two doors.
Okay.
Vrindavan and Navadvip.
Okay.
In Golok.
Okay.
Shwetadev, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Shwetadev.
Okay.
If you see the Goloka chart, that is explained.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Brahma Samhita first verse, I think, first or second verse in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Yes, but thank you, Prabhuji.
Sarati Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhu. Prabhu, you mentioned in the class, Prabhuji, that in spiritual world, energies, when they are within Krishna, they have no form. But when they manifest outside, then they assume the form. But then, Prabhu, we hear that in spiritual world, everything has form. So this idea is not, even you mentioned that even Radharani,
No. Spiritual world, they have formed eternally. To understand that how can energy be formed and formless? That's why it is, I quoted from Jiva Goswami, no, this is not my explanation. When the energy is in Krishna's body, they remain formless. But when they become manifest, at that time they assume the form. So they have, simultaneously they have form and they are also formless. This is how we should understand them, like that.
Okay.
Then they are eternal. As in energy. Aruna Madhavi Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Pranam. Thank you so much for such a wonderful and simple explanation shared by you, Prabhuji, on these verses. Prabhuji, I have two questions. One is, Srimati Radharani is the embodiment of Haladini Shakti of Sarupa, internal potency of Shri Krishna. So, who are the embodiment of Samvit and Sandhani Shakti? This is first question, Prabhuji. And second, we are not doing, I'm not doing pure devotional service because we are practicing. I'm practicing right now. So it's under Yoga Mahamaya Shakti we are doing? Or
Sorry, say again, when you are not?
Like you said at the end of the class that when we are engaged in devotional service, we are under internal potency of Krishna, and when we are not engaged in devotional service, we are under external potency of Krishna. But like we are practicing now, I have not achieved pure devotional service. So this comes under external energy of Krishna, because this is mixed devotion, or it is mix of internal and external both.
You are jumping from one place to another place.
Okay.
Like when you are engaged in his service, at that time we are actually under the internal potency. But when we are doing, things which are not related to serving Krishna, then definitely that is under external potency. So you have to understand how is your mood when you are engaged in what service. So accordingly, you have to kind of identify your situation, that you yourself can best ascertain when you are under what potency. For example, when you are chanting, chanting means that's an act of Ladini Shakti, because you are chanting to give pleasure to the Lord. So according to the level of your degree of your surrender and devotion, you will be under the internal potency. And when we are just simply engaged in Bahya Kriya, the external activities which are not related to Krishna, then we are under the external potency. So Radharani is the embodiment of Ladini Shakti. Then Vasudeva is Chit potency, Shakti, Vasudeva Tattva. And Balaram is existential potency, embodiment of existential potency, Baladeva Tattva.
Thank you, Babaji. Hare Krishna.
Mahaprabhu Kripa. Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Danut Pranam. My question was the same as earlier, so it's been answered. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Sita Thakurani Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. First of all, very good to see you, that you are not well, but you are giving so lovely classes. Lots of things learned from you. So thank you for a wonderful explanation. I have only one doubt about, you have explained about the internal potency of the Lord has three parts, that Samvit, Sadhini and Alhadini. I have always doubt about the Sandhini Shakti. How can, if someone asks about us, then in one word, what can we explain? Like Samvit, Sandhini, Samvit is a knowledge potency and Alhadini is a bliss. But I don't connect for Sandhini.
Okay, like you see, Krishna, he needs to sleep at night, right?
Yes.
That means he needs a bed to sleep. He needs a pillow. When Krishna is walking on the street, he needs a crown, right? A sleeper. Yeah. So these are all expansions of his existential potency.
Yeah.
He expands himself to serve the Lord in this way.
Yeah. This is potency is from Balaram, I think.
Balaram is the embodiment. You can say actually he is the head of the Samvit, Sandhini Shakti.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Prabhuji. I just want to confirm, because if someone asks, I have little doubt about this potency. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Whatever is required for Krishna's pastime in this world, those elements have been expanded from Sambit Shakti. Sandhini Shakti. Sandhini Koraicha Jata Prayojan. Whatever Krishna desires, the Sandhini Shakti fulfills Krishna's desire in performing his pastimes. In that way, like, asan, he needs an asan. He wants to sit for prasadam. He needs an asan. Asan is also an expansion of Sandhini Shakti. House, all this, okay?
That's why Tadiya word is used. The Tadiya is also not different to Krishna. That's why it is there, that Dham and all that thing we have to worship like Krishna. That's why.
Sorry, say again.
Like you have explained that all these paraphernalia is not different from Krishna. So that's why we have to give respect equally, right? Tadiya, that word is used, no? Tadiya.
Yeah.
That's why these things are, because it's not different. Dham is not different to Krishna. Her asan, his shatra, is or paraphernalia is not different from them. This Caritamrita, everything is divine, same as we treat it like that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. There is no other question today. So we will conclude, Mahaprabhu willing. So we will continue. Today we continue completed up to text number 61. Okay, 62. So we will continue from text number 63 in our next class. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Ancha kalpatarudhascha kripa sindhubhyeva dhanan pavanabhyo vaishnavabhyo Antakoti Vaishnava Vindaki.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.